Synopsis: the fiancé's white moonlight showed clear disdain for me as soon as we met. Being the eldest daughter, who doesn't understand what the other person is calculating in their heart. What kind of female tough guy pretends to be noble? Nowadays, there are plenty of girls who outwardly portray themselves as strong, calling the boys brother while behind their backs being a genuine green tea. You guys are really foolish, treating green tea as a treasure, while I just smiled silently, turned around, and snatched away her business opportunity, then stood watching her get slapped repeatedly by her father, dragged by the collar to kneel in front of me and apologize. I smiled and gently patted Bạch Nguyệt Quang's cheek. See? This is the strength of the female tough guy Tao Mai that you mentioned. If you dare to provoke me again, I will break your legs. When the private room door opened, I heard a girl's voice, soft yet full of arrogance. Let me tell you guys, Tam Tuan is the female tough guy Tao Mai. Do you all hear me clearly? Being the eldest daughter, who doesn't understand what the other person is calculating in their heart. You guys are really too naive, treating a green tea girl as a treasure. Too trake, you must not let her deceive you. The waiter who led me here recognized me. Hearing these words, I turned in shock, a hint of mocking laughter flashed in my eyes, then I pushed the door open and walked in. Inside the private room was a group of boys, including Ta Tu Trake, my childhood friend. The girl who just spoke was the new member of the group. Hua Ka Lo, seeing me appear, Ta Tu Trake clearly panicked. He stood up, forced a smile, and said, Tuan, why are you here? I directly pushed him aside, without saying a word, raised my hand and slapped Hua Ka Lo straight in the face. She let out a piercing scream, holding her face and leaning to the side. Immediately after, I grabbed the wine bottle on the table and smashed it over Ta Tu Trake's head. The wine and broken glass splattered everywhere. The waitresses pouring wine panicked and screamed, hurriedly hiding in the arms of the rich boys, looking both weak and pitiful. Hua Ka Lo was the first to regain her composure. She covered her face and pointed at me, shouting, Tam Tuan, how dare you hit me? Do you know who my father is? I maintained my smile and slapped her again. I work out all year round, and the two heavy slaps made Hua Ka Lo's newly raised nose crooked. Looking at her pitiful state, I smiled gently yet coldly. Does your father dare to indulge you to the point of hitting someone like I am doing right now? If not, who is he that I should remember him? Even if your father is God, as long as he dares to scold me in front of me, the first person I will hit is still you. With that, I kicked her hard in the stomach. Hua Ka Lo immediately fell back onto the sofa. After dealing with that detestable person, I turned to look at the source of all this trouble. The young master of the Ta family, Ta Tu Trake. He glared at me, his face filled with anger. Tam Tuan, don't go too far, we are just friends, why do you need to make such a fuss? I stood still, laughed contemptuously, then lifted the bag on the table and slammed it straight into his face. Immediately after, I pointed directly at his face and scolded him. The friends he called were cursing his fiancée right to her face. Not only did he not refute, but he also stood by and joined in. If you look down on me and don't want to marry into my family, fine, give up your right to the Ta family inheritance so your younger brother can take your place. At that point, my Tam family will proudly marry your younger brother, ensuring I won't bother you even a step further. Now it's great, inheriting the Ta family fortune while dreaming of being free to love, dream on. After saying that, I hit the bag again. I tossed my hair and glanced at the young master sitting on the sofa with a meaningful look. Lately, the upper management has tightened control, be careful, one day they might investigate those living in the same area. I kindly reminded them, if they want to be the leading bird, then go ahead and follow those reckless ones. After saying that, I casually wiped the wine and blood stains off the bag, turned around, and left. Once I reached the door of the private room, I casually took a photo. In the photo, the young master of the Ko family was hugging a girl with half of her bare shoulder exposed, with clear lipstick marks on her face and collarbone. After finishing everything, I stepped out of the private room and slammed the door behind me. I was born in a wealthy neighborhood in Beijing. In the entire area, I was the only girl, the rest were just boys who hated dogs. At their age, they gathered to fight and failed repeatedly, while I was obedient and clever, always at the top of my class. That petite, soft girl quickly became the envy of all the parents. Although every time those boys got beaten, their fathers helplessly scolded them, "Why don't you learn from Tam Tuan?" However, they never hated me. On the contrary, they treated me like a big sister and pampered me. After all, I was the only one in the neighborhood who diligently did homework, and they could only rely on me to copy. Not to mention the sports boys next door were thick-skinned. Every time they gathered to fight, they needed me as a strategist, otherwise, they wouldn't win at all. Thus, from the age of 8 to 18, I fought. After turning 18, some went abroad, others entered university, the economy developed, and family businesses gradually emerged with the market. The friends from back then also donned a new facade, becoming wealthy people with human faces and beastly hearts in society. But in front of family, everything was still different. Until Hua Ka-lo appeared, she was the top student in the oil painting department at the Beijing Academy of Fine Arts. More importantly, Hua Ka-lo willingly followed them, showering them with compliments, making them feel like frogs sitting in warm water, enjoying it to the point of forgetting who they were. On the contrary, I am a rich young lady from a wealthy family, with a background and influence on par with them, which is why our relationship has grown increasingly distant. I really don't care about this. Just a toy, merely a flower that blooms early and withers quickly. After they have played enough, they will naturally get bored. I just didn't expect Hua Ka-lo would dare to see me as bait to approach them and even dared to mock me. The wealthy neighborhood in the capital has no secrets that can be hidden for long. The next day, news of my confrontation with Ta Tu Trake in front of everyone reached the Ta family. That very morning, Mrs. Ta came to my house with a fruit basket to apologize. Ta Kan Tam, the younger brother, was still in high school, wearing the uniform of the affiliated high school, carrying a few boxes of tea behind his mother, looking obedient and more mature than his age. Aunt Ta held my hand, her face full of regret. "Good girl, you've suffered, you must come home with me today for a meal, or I won't feel at ease." After saying that, she held my hand tightly, greeted my mother, and led me to the Ta family. Aunt had prepared a table full of food. Ta Kan Tam took out a pair of slippers from the closet for me, standing and watching me change my shoes as I entered the house. I handed him my bag for him to put away. My gaze swept over his long, clean, white hands, and suddenly I spoke up. "Ta Kan Tam, how old are you this year?" Ta Kan Tam was a bit taken aback and replied, "I'm 19 this year." I nodded without saying anything more and walked into the house first. In recent years, the Ta family has developed rapidly. The Ta family also bought a villa in the prime area of the capital, no less than our house. But everyone has gotten used to living together, both convenient and lively. At the dining table, Aunt Ta held my hand, her voice full of regret. What kind of parent doesn't know how to teach their child, allowing them to follow outsiders and hurt their own family? Good child, Aunt will definitely help you with this anger. I smiled and shook my head, my tone gentle. Aunt Ta, I really think Ta Tu Trake likes that girl a lot, or let's just forget about it. Green melons pressed don't taste sweet, let alone relationships. Hearing me say that, Aunt Ta immediately became anxious. Currently, the Ta family and the Tam family are cooperating closely. How could they ruin the great cause of both families over a woman from outside? She raised her voice, angrily saying, "What is that Hua Ka-lo? Does she deserve to be a daughter-in-law of the Ta family? She must be dreaming. Aunt thinks she is not decent, definitely not a proper person, pretending and shamelessly clinging to her son." As soon as she finished speaking, there was a loud noise at the front door. I turned my head to look and saw Ta Tu Trake and Hua Ka-lo standing outside the door, carrying a pile of gifts. Hua Ka-lo was no longer wearing the cute overalls as usual but had changed into a long white dress standing close to Ta Tu Trake. Perhaps she had heard everything just now, and her eyes were red. She threw the gifts on the ground, opened the door, and ran outside, crying as she went. Ta Tu Trake instinctively wanted to chase after her, but Aunt Ta sternly shouted, "If you dare to go, you can forget about ever stepping foot back into the Ta family again." As soon as the words fell, Ta Tu Trake immediately stood frozen in place. After a long time, he slowly looked at me, his eyes filled with unhidden hatred. I sighed softly and turned to speak to Aunt Ta. "Do you see? It's not that I don't want to marry your son, but there really is no fate between us. Your son sees me as an enemy. If we marry, it would be like sentencing me to death." After saying that, I raised my head to look at Ta Tu Trake. Perhaps he also didn't understand the implication in my eyes. I maintained a gentle tone, smiling softly. "How about this, let's each take a step back, the two families can still cooperate as before, and I and him can stay in our own places." I smiled at Aunt Ta, "And still, you are my mother, from now on, I will still be your daughter." Upon saying this, I paused, stood up, took the coat that was draped over the sofa, and walked towards the door. Ta Tu Trake watched me, his expression complicated. I suddenly remembered something, turned my head to look at him. "As for you, Ta Tu Trake, I have something I want to give you." Just a second later, while Ta Tu Trake was still in shock, I slapped him hard across the face. A Beijing princess has never had to look at anyone's face, let alone this stupid father's name. Seeing his handsome yet awkward appearance, I couldn't help but laugh coldly. "This slap was because you had an engagement and still betrayed. Mice and chickens." After finishing my words, I slapped him again. "This slap is because you sided with Hua Ka Lo to humiliate me, making me a laughingstock in the group. If you dare to abandon the engagement early to chase after your Bach Nguyệt Quang, I would still respect you as a man. But here you are, TSK, without a solid footing and already trying to row two boats. Humph, you really know how to calculate things. From now on, I wish you and Hua Ka Lo 100 years of harmony, and as for me and you, we have no further relations." After saying that, I grabbed my bag and left decisively, not looking back. Regardless of whether the engagement between me and Ta Tu Trake still exists or not, the relationship between our two families remains as strong as ever. Nothing can separate us. On Ta Tu Trake's wedding day, I will still show up as promised. I linked arms with my brother, wearing a formal black gown, exuding a noble aura without being ostentatious. My best friend was quite surprised to see me, not expecting that I would actually come. I raised my glass and smiled leisurely. The Tam family and the Ta family are partners, and I am the future heir of the Tam family, so why shouldn't I come? Moreover, I am still the daughter of Aunt Ta, so it is only natural for me to come and congratulate. Hearing this, my best friend nodded and signaled to me, looking towards a woman with frizzy hair standing not far away. "See? That's Hua Ka Lo's mother. Do you know why the Ta family let Hua Ka Lo in so easily? It's because she was found to be pregnant before marriage. At that time, Hua Ka Lo and her mother went to the Ta family to cause trouble, even threatening to sue if they weren't married. With the management tightening up now, the Ta family doesn't dare to be the leading bird." After hearing this, I looked up at Mrs. Hua, who was quite pleased, and a smile flickered in my eyes. I didn't expect her to be a heroine who used threats to marry her daughter into a wealthy family. Forcing my best friend to nod, and just as she was about to say something more, a servant from the Ta family approached. They invited me backstage to bless the bride. I readily agreed. After all, I am Aunt Ta's adopted daughter. Carrying both feelings and reason, I should lend a hand. Under the guidance of the servant, I was taken to a discreet dressing room in the back. Seeing Hua Ka Lo in the dressing room, I raised my eyebrows and smiled to greet her. I didn't expect that even after marrying into a wealthy family, she still wanted to meet her old fiancé like me. The servant maintained a neutral expression, closed the door, and quietly left. The dressing room became cramped, leaving only me and Hua Ka Lo. Hua Ka Lo smiled, lifted the veil. "I intentionally let you see clearly. I called you here to show off. Didn't you look down on me the most before? But now I am the eldest daughter-in-law of the Ta family, the wife of Ta Tu Trake." After saying this, she raised her eyes to look at me, her gaze full of mockery. "Tam Tuan, you say you are loved by the whole neighborhood, but in the end, what happened? Not a single person stood up to protect you. When I called you a green tea, all your good brothers remained silent. Even your fiancé, all I had to do was call out, and he walked right into the trap. You think you are the darling of heaven, but in their eyes, you are just a girl reeking of money. The one tattoo Trake cherishes in his heart is me. After saying this, she smiled at me, raising her chin, looking like a winner. I quietly looked at her and suddenly smiled. If you think that way, I have nothing more to say. With that, I turned around. Just as I reached for the dressing room door, Hua Ka-lo pulled me back. You can't leave. As soon as she finished speaking, I immediately shook her hand off. Hua Ka-lo stepped on the train of her wedding dress, let out a piercing scream, and then fell to the ground. According to the tragic cries of Hua Ka-lo, a pool of blood gradually seeped out from under her wedding dress. Immediately after, the dressing room door was pushed open forcefully. Hua Ka-lo's parents rushed in first, followed by the Ta family members who hurried over after hearing the news. Seeing her parents appear, Hua Ka-lo immediately burst into tears. Mom, Tam Tuan pushed me down, hurry and take me to the hospital. A chaos ensued, and the wedding came to an abrupt end. The maid on the scene quickly spread the news everywhere, saying that the young mistress of the Tam family couldn't marry Tattoo Trake, so she harbored resentment and secretly ran into Hua Ka-lo's dressing room to cause trouble. Little did they know, Hua Ka-lo was carrying the Ta family's flesh and blood, and during the struggle, she was hit in the stomach by Tam Tuan, leading to an unexpected miscarriage. Half-true, half-false rumors immediately spread everywhere. In the hospital, I sat calmly on a chair, even leisurely making myself a cup of tea. In contrast, Tattoo Trake was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He was still in his groom's suit, and as soon as he burst into the office, he intended to rush at me but was stopped by my brother. His clothes were disheveled, and his eyes were frighteningly fierce. Tam Tuan, let me tell you, if anything happens to the baby in Ka-lo's belly, I will definitely fight you to the death. That is the heir of the Ta family, even my mother can't protect you. After he finished speaking, Hua Ka-lo's mother immediately rushed over, crying and scolding, my poor daughter has been harmed by you like this, if anything happens to her, I will make you pay with blood. The two of them created a scene, making the waiting room noisy like a market. Several nurses hurried over and whispered a few words to me. After hearing that, I smiled and nodded, then looked up at Tattoo Trake, who was fuming. The baby in Hua Ka-lo's belly couldn't be saved, but it wasn't my doing. Upon hearing this, Tattoo Trake was about to open his mouth to curse me when the waiting room door was pushed open. Aunt Ta walked in, and seeing his mother appear, Tattoo Trake thought she was there to back him up. Bong Ko-din said something, but Aunt Ta slapped him hard across the face. Aunt Ta sneered, holding a stack of documents and slapping it straight into his face. The papers fell scattered on the ground. It was a medical report and some inappropriate photos. I smiled, stood up, and greeted Aunt Ta. Aunt Ta seemed still not satisfied, pointing directly at her son with an angry voice. Fortunately, Tuan was smart and alert, telling his mother to pay attention to Hua Ka-lo, which led to finding a clue. The baby in that wretched girl's belly was the heir, yet she dared to dream of pinning it on our Ta family. After Aunt Ta finished speaking, she slapped her son again. That woman knew she was pregnant with an heir, sooner or later it would be exposed, so she decisively took abortion pills, intending to frame our Tuan for something that happened. I've been clever for decades, how could I give birth to a fool like you? Let the Ta family be played by others. After saying this, Aunt Ta was so angry that she kept rubbing her chest, while Tattoo Trake, who was pinned to the ground, was completely stunned. The baby was not his. He looked up at Hua Ka-lo's mother. That woman, upon seeing the medical report and the photo of her daughter with another man, panicked and bowed her head, not daring to say a word. I casually picked up the green trash can on the desk and smashed it straight onto Tattoo Trake's head. It's okay, the child is not yours, but the wife still is. Upon hearing this, Aunt Ta immediately reacted, pointing at Tattoo Trake and scolding him, saying that a woman like Hua Ka-lo was not worthy of being the eldest daughter-in-law of the Ta family. If you insist on marrying her, then get out of the Ta family yourself, don't dream of inheriting even a penny. After finishing, Aunt Ta pushed the door and walked out. I looked at Ta Tu Trake with a mocking gaze and then looked up to find Ta Can Tam, his younger brother, standing at the door. He was wearing a high school uniform, his gaze calm and profound beyond his age. He and I exchanged a knowing glance and then walked past each other without looking back. This storm quickly calmed down. After Hua Ka Lo's wedding was no more, she was also kicked out by the Ta family. In the rich neighborhood of the capital, there are no secrets. Everyone quickly dug out that medical report, and it was immediately discovered that Ta Tu Trake had been horned. The Ta family had no daughter-in-law, which further focused attention on me. My brother frowned at a pile of items that the Ta family's butler brought over, slightly rubbing his head. Although the Ta family and the Tam family are partners now, and this is the best method for the development of cooperation between the two families, he still couldn't bear to let me marry a man with no future and a bad reputation like Ta Tu Trake. He was just about to refuse when I smiled and accepted. He looked at me in confusion, but I still smiled as usual. Watching the figure of the butler from the Ta family gradually walk away. The Ta family doesn't only have one son. In my brother's mind, a person in uniform, calm and quiet, immediately appeared. Ta Can Tam, you looked at me with an incredulous gaze. Little sister? How old is that kid? You really are a beast. I just smiled and said nothing. The reason I chose Ta Can Tam is very simple, he's young and easy to control. Clearly, my brother was also thinking about this, his mouth opened and closed but he couldn't find the words. In the end, he just sighed, let me calculate. Ta Tu Trake is not someone who accepts his fate. After a period of silence, he went on to love someone else. This time it was still a young girl who had just entered university. Fine wine and luxury goods were showered upon that young, beautiful girl by Ta Tu Trake like flowing water. This quickly got caught and spread on social media. The young master of the upper-class family in a thick suit, handsome face alongside the female lead from a good family, pure like a small white lotus. In such a social environment, that young girl really thought she had found a fateful love like in a novel without any servants. Tempted by Ta Tu Trake's few words, she gave herself up. Even so, the Ta family and those in the upper class did not think that way. No one mentioned Ta Tu Trake's moral decay, instead, they discussed how fortunate the young master of the Ta family was to have a young girl by his side. The Ta company lost the support of Ta Tu Trake and had no choice but to pass the burden to Ta Can Tam, who had just finished his college entrance exam. During that time, my relationship with him was quite harmonious. Aunt Ta was also very pleased to see her serious second son stepping up to take on the family business. She even subtly hinted to Ta Can Tam that the Ta family has always valued capable people. As long as you have ambition, the Ta family is willing to give you what you want. As the cooperation between the Tam family and the Ta family became more solid, the number of times I met Ta Can Tam gradually increased. Your changes were so obvious that everyone could see them. In just a few short months, you went from an inexperienced intern to a young man handling work skillfully. The wealthy elite in the capital are closely connected, seeing Ta Can Tam with such prospects, many peers throughout olive branches, hoping he would cultivate feelings with their daughters. However, Ta Can Tam surprised everyone. He arranged a few things at Ta company and then moved to work for the Tam family. I hesitated to use him, but my brother didn't care and casually said, the new brother-in-law is the strongest bull in his prime, if we don't milk him now, when will we? Little sister, you really are too kind. Shouldn't we let him work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. only? If I were you, I would definitely make him work 24/7. Just as I was about to retort, I received news from the Ta family's maid that Ta Tu Trake had gone to Hong Kong. In novels, the traditional overbearing CEO always has a plot that seems trivial but everyone loves to watch. It's almost a mandatory course for every director chasing a wife. Ta Tu Trake was no exception. Just when Ta Tu Trake and that white lotus were sweetly affectionate, the maid I had planted in the Ta family finally had an effect. In the golden villa hiding Ta Tu Trake's beauty, under the guidance of the butler in a light pink nightgown, the white flower discovered the existence of Hua Ka Lo. The background of that white flower was not illustrious. She had never been exposed to wealth in the capital and didn't know much about Tatu Treka's corrupt ways, only that he had once been engaged to someone but it ultimately fell through. Moreover, with the butler's vague way of speaking, the white flower thought that Hua Ka Lo had abandoned Tatu Trek for another man, running away from the wedding, making the engagement between the two families worthless. The most important thing is that Tatu Trek only likes one type, so Hua Ka Lo and that white flower are quite similar. This time, with evidence as solid as a mountain, the white flower believed that Tatu Trek and Hua Ka Lo were unforgettable ex-lovers, only seeing her as a replacement. The young girl, in her anger, immediately bought a ticket to Hong Kong and left without looking back. Tatu Trek, the fairy, flew thousands of miles to chase after his wife. Tuan Tak and Tam had just landed from the flight from Beijing to Hong Kong. The night in Hong Kong was luxurious and decadent. The Sham family originally had a business here. Tuan Tak and Tam got into the company car and first went to the hotel to rest. Looking at the bustling night scene passing by outside the window, I suddenly spoke up. Tak and Tam, how much profit did your project that you negotiated for the Ta family last month yield? A strange glint flashed in his eyes, but he ultimately answered honestly. About 20 million. I nodded without saying anything more. For this project, last month Tak and Tam had worked overtime with the Ta family team for a whole month to win it. Because he hadn't slept before 2 a.m. for the entire month, it was needless to say how hard it was. The next day, I took Tak and Tam to the horse racing track. Tatu Trek and his white flower were right in front of us. Clearly, Tatu Trek was a regular here. Even before entering, a staff member approached and bowed to greet him very respectfully. I squinted, not missing the hint of arrogance that flashed across the face of the white flower standing next to him. Tak and Tam was still young, although he had learned to ride, he had never been to places like this. I let him change into an assistant's outfit while I dressed extravagantly and led him into the hall. The waiter brought up the information. I signaled for Tak and Tam to choose a horse. Tak and Tam shook his head, indicating that he wasn't interested. I chuckled softly, casually pointed at a horse, and placed a bet on it to win. Bet 5 million. I calmly opened the window of the lounge, and Tatu Treka's voice came through the wall, sounding very much like a domineering CEO. Baby, you can choose any horse you like. The white flower pointed at a number and then acted cute with Tatu Trek. But brother, what if we lose? Tatu Trek affectionately said, 1,000 gold for the smile of a beauty is not a loss. After saying that, Tatu Trek didn't even glance at the information anymore, snapping his fingers at the waiter behind him, bet 20 million as my wife said. After hearing him say that, I closed the window, picked up the teacup on the table, and took a sip. Meanwhile, Tak and Tam beside me had started pressing the acupoint on his philtrum. 20 million is equivalent to you working tirelessly for a whole month. And Tak and Tam was spending the money he worked so hard to earn so extravagantly. A hint of a smile flashed in my eyes, but I still said nothing. The race quickly came to an end. Tatu Trek was not outside of expectations. When he heard the results of the race, Tak and Tam jumped up from the sofa. The anger in his eyes was almost uncontrollable. I turned my head to look at Tak and Tam all the way, very satisfied with his current state. That 20 million was enough to make Tak and Tam determined to push Tatu Trek out of the Ta family, completely justified. After the day at the horse racing track, I no longer paid attention to Tatu Trek. That night, I took Tak and Tam back to the capital. After returning, Tak and Tam worked even harder. Even though it was just 2 short days, I made him understand a principle. If a playboy like Tatu Trek took over the Ta family, sooner or later he would ruin everything in the Ta household. Only when Tak and Tam matures earlier will the status and benefits he gains in the Ta family not be easily taken by Tatu Trek. That white flower indeed has some tricks up her sleeve. I heard from my assistant that Tatu Trek stayed for another 2 weeks, spending nearly 50 million in total, of which over 40 million went to racetracks and casinos in Macau. I handed all the bills to Tak and Tam. He took a deep breath and quietly ordered 2 bottles of fast-acting heart medication online. Initially, Ta-Tu-Trek still cared about his career, but since he fell in love with that white flower, he became a carefree prince, taking her around to enjoy life, saying that youth shouldn't be wasted, even spending tens of millions just to build an art museum in Shanghai for her. At that time, Ta and Tam had already been in school for 2 months, juggling both school and work, and had lost quite a bit of weight. When I received this news at 3 a.m., Ta and Tam was still awake, and I was afraid he wouldn't be able to process it, so I sat with him in the office. On the desk was a pile of unedited documents, stacked high. Those were the materials their team prepared for this project. Because they had to compete for clients from others. Ta and Tam and the team had stayed up for 2 weeks to secure this $2 million profit project. I looked up at Ta and Tam. He looked much more haggard. His phone suddenly lit up, and I glanced over. It was an advertisement for the art museum. Ta and Tam also saw this news, like the last straw that broke him. He violently swept all the documents off the table to the floor with a crash, and in an instant, A4 papers flew everywhere in the office. Amidst the chaos, 19-year-old Ta and Tam held his head in despair. He took a deep breath and looked up again, his eyes already red. He stared at me, his voice trembling. "Sister Tuan, I can't take it anymore, let's take action. I really can't stand it anymore. Why do I have to work overtime while he leisurely enjoys the money I earn? Why?" Saying this, he was almost in despair and about to cry. I sighed softly. After all, he was still just a child. I sat down on the sofa and waved at Ta and Tam. He walked over to me, I gently patted his shoulder, he sniffed and sat down on the floor. Just like when he was little, he rested his head on my lap, his cheek pressed against my belly, silent and not saying a word. After 2 weeks of non-stop overtime, plus the rapid emotional changes, by the time I pushed his head away, he had fallen asleep in that position. After stabilizing our spirits, we began to plan to drive Ta-Tu-Trek out of the Ta family. The 70th birthday of the old man of the Ta family was approaching. In December, the weather in the capital was cold. Mr. Ta was afraid his father would catch a cold, so he decisively moved the party venue back to the old Ta family home. The villa was nestled against the mountains, by the river among the mountains, spacious in size. When the invitation was sent out, I was choosing my outfit. The pink lotus dress highlighted my gentleness even more. My long black hair was neatly tied up with a hairpin, completely losing the sharp and decisive look in the business world, replaced by a docile appearance that older people liked. The Ta family and the Shin family had been on good terms for many years. As soon as the car entered the Ta family villa, the family came out personally to welcome me. I affectionately hugged Mr. Ta's arm and called out, "Why did you come out here?" I affectionately hugged Mr. Ta's arm and called out, "Why did you come out here? It's really cold outside. Everyone, hurry inside. Next time just tell Tam to come out and pick me up, he doesn't mind the cold." Ta-Tu-Trek didn't come. I've already arrived at the banquet hall, and he hasn't shown up either. Guests are arriving one after another, but Ta-Tu-Trek is still nowhere to be seen. Mr. Ta frowned and asked the butler, "Why hasn't the eldest son arrived yet? How long has it been?" The butler wiped his sweat, wanting to say something but hesitating. A hint of sarcasm flashed in my eyes. It would be strange if Ta-Tu-Trek actually showed up. A week ago, the art museum in Shanghai that he invested in had a fatal accident because of that white lotus. 2 workers were repairing it and fell from a height while climbing over the railing without wearing protective gear. The white flower itself was quite a famous hodger online. The incident immediately climbed to the trending search position on WO. Normally, as long as the museum compensates, apologizes, takes responsibility, and makes adjustments according to regulations, this matter could end peacefully. But that white flower had been spoiled by Ta-Tu-Trek for too long, so much so that she couldn't tell right from wrong. I didn't expect her to go on WBO and post a stupid status. The art museum I worked hard to prepare had to stop all operations just because someone died. What a pity, and she even attached some sad icons. She thought that netizens would continue to comfort her as before, but this time she miscalculated. A human life is a big deal, yet she treated it like a trivial matter, only caring about her own money. This topic itself had already attracted quite a few passers-by, and as soon as the status was posted, a wave of attacks erupted immediately, with even some netizens digging up her old blog posts, discovering that she was indeed a treasure, her level of drama no different from a real-life palace drama, claiming that she had no obligation to share her outfit coordination. Her feet are size 36.5. Sometimes I find my small waist really hard to coordinate outfits with. My roommates are so convenient, they touched my new bag for half a day. Tattoo Trake is also stuck in Shanghai because of this dispute and hasn't returned yet. This is completely beyond my plans. I originally planned to make a few sarcastic remarks at this party, to mock Tattoo Trake in front of the Ta family. I didn't expect him to stab himself in the back, voluntarily handing me his weakness. Seeing Mr. Ta's face darkening, I chuckled softly, my voice gentle. Perhaps Tattoo Trake is in Shanghai right now and can't return for the time being. Dad, let's start first, don't let it run late. Mr. Ta's face immediately darkened. Shanghai, who is there that he insists on rushing to? I gently covered my mouth, the corners of my lips curling up. Without Tattoo Trake, only Ta and Tam remains here. Mr. Ta led Ta and Tam to greet everyone. While raising a glass and chatting, his behavior completely changed Mr. Ta's perception of his son. In just half a year, Ta and Tam could be said to have undergone a transformation. Half a year ago, he was just a naive high school student who had just passed the college entrance exam. But after half a year of training and working, he quickly matured, gradually taking on the appearance of someone who could bear responsibilities. Everyone present at the Ta family are people of status, and Ta and Tam had either cooperated or interacted with them to some extent. Everyone still remembers this young master, and as soon as they see him approaching, they actively come forward to greet him. This single young master with a bright future is even getting more attention than his father, becoming the target that the wealthy in the capital want to draw in. This party lasted until nearly evening before it ended. I followed Ta to participate in the Ta family's family banquet. Tattoo Trake finally appeared after a long, exhausting journey. Seeing me, a flash of disgust crossed his eyes, but he still didn't say a word. At the dinner table, Grandpa Ta held my hand and Tattoo Trake's, earnestly asking, "You two have been friends since childhood, it's been many years now, and I won't live much longer. I just hope to see my great-grandchild while I'm still alive. I don't know if this wish can be fulfilled." After he finished speaking, he looked at me with a gentle expression. I smiled and quietly withdrew my hand. After drinking for more than 3 weeks, I stood up, using the excuse of going to the bathroom to leave the meal. In the washroom, as I turned around, I saw Tattoo Trake standing right behind me, his face showing no expression at all. "Tam Tuan, let's talk for a bit. We're both of age now, and the marriage has been announced in the newspaper." Grandpa looked at her, having seen her grow up, and she had to take responsibility for his wish. Hearing him say that, I widened my eyes, looking at him in disbelief. "Tattoo Trake, are you still half asleep? Did you forget your brain in Shanghai? Do you dare to say that again?" After saying this, I assessed him from head to toe, letting out a cold laugh. If you had said these words before marrying Hua Ka Lo, I might have reluctantly entered this commercial marriage for the sake of our childhood friendship. But do you know? You've been married once before, your reputation is already in tatters, and you have long become worthless. A man like that, we women wouldn't even look at. If outsiders knew that the Tam family was marrying their daughter to someone like you, wouldn't they laugh until their teeth fell out? As soon as I finished speaking, I clearly saw the corners of Tattoo Trake's mouth twitch. He finally couldn't hold back. "Tam Tuan, don't go too far. Our two families are entering a commercial marriage. After we marry, can't we just mind our own business? When the time comes, just have a child to deal with it." After he finished speaking, I slapped him hard across the face. A clear handprint immediately appeared on Tattoo Trake's face. He stood there in shock. I didn't give him a chance to recover, turning around and
Brainy.
slapping the other side of his face. Looking at the two symmetrical handprints on his face, I laughed coldly. Commercial marriage? Dreaming in broad daylight, who plays their own part? If you want to keep a mistress outside, just say it directly. Don't stand here pretending to be kind, asking for a child. I'm afraid that after marrying you, I would have to spend effort raising all your illegitimate children too. After saying this, I looked him up and down and suddenly smiled. Tatu Trake, aren't you in a hurry to marry me? What's wrong? Are you out of money? As soon as I finished speaking, I could clearly see the change in Tatu Trake's eyes. I nodded in satisfaction. It seemed I was right. Earlier in the washroom, the secretary had sent me news. Tatu Trake's art museum in Shanghai was completely not in compliance with state regulations and posed many significant dangers. After the news about the worker's death was exposed, the art museum immediately faced the risk of closure, needing to renovate the museum, compensate the worker's family, and hire a public relations team to suppress public opinion. Everything required money. And his money had long been spent during his previous relationship. To rotate capital, he had invested in several projects, but just at that moment, national policies suddenly changed, leaving him with no way to continue financial support. Originally, if he had connections, those projects could still find ways to bypass the policies. But unfortunately, after a long period of debauchery, his connections had long been severed. Now, I fear that there are hardly millions left in his account. If I enter a commercial marriage with him, I would definitely bring along a considerable sum of money. Thinking of this, my gaze towards Tatu Trake became even more contemptuous. Only a person without ability would covet his wife's dowry. I didn't expect that he married me just to clean up the aftermath for that third girl. Tatu Trake, you are truly a disgrace to the family. After saying this, I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face again. Tatu Trake didn't have time to dodge, and another clear handprint appeared on his face. After doing all this, I picked up the phone placed on the sink and left calmly. The screen still displayed the call interface. 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 At the dining table, Ta Can Tam calmly turned off the speakerphone, his indifferent face looking at his parents with a dark expression. This was exactly why Sister Tu did not want to marry into the Ta family. After speaking, he raised his eyes towards the old man sitting in the chair. Old man Ta sighed, "It is our Ta family that has wronged the Shin family." That's right. As soon as Tatu Trake came to the washroom to find me, I called Ta Can Tam's phone number. Ta Can Tam was quick-witted. As soon as he heard my first sentence, he immediately turned on the speakerphone, allowing everyone in the Ta family to clearly see the ugliness of Tatu Trake. Sure enough, when I returned to the dining table, no one in the Ta family mentioned the marriage anymore. Meanwhile, Tatu Trake used the excuse of feeling unwell and left the party, not returning. But this had nothing to do with me. There was a lot of information in my exchange with Tatu Trake that day. On the third day, according to the investigation by Old Man Ta and Mr. Ta, all of Tatu Trake's actions over the past 6 months were uncovered. Keeping female students, betting on horse racing in Hong Kong, gambling in Macau, throwing money to build an art museum for his lover, and even offending local officials, he even created a major scandal in the current situation, causing a wave of negative public opinion online. Every good deed Tatu Trake committed made Mr. Ta furious to the point of near death. After hearing Ta Can Tam recount the events, Mr. Ta beat him so badly that he broke 2 canes in the ancestral hall of the Ta family villa. Old Man Ta hated the kind of wealthy descendants who only knew how to indulge in debauchery. Seeing his grandson fall so low, the old man was so angry that he fainted and had to immediately call the family doctor for emergency treatment. This time, Mr. Ta showed no mercy towards Tatu Trake. Ta Can Tam excitedly asked me if this meant Tatu Trake had completely lost the ability to shake his position in Ta Corporation. I just smiled and did not respond. The things Tattoo Trake is doing now are ultimately just superficial evils. That alone is not enough for the Ta family to completely discard him. After all, in their minds, which man hasn't made a few mistakes? What Tattoo Trake did was merely keeping the wrong people, misusing a bit of money, and doing a few unsavory things. As long as he stays in line for a while, at most half a year, he can once again don the appearance of a respectable man. By then, when Tattoo Trake returns, he will definitely become a major nuisance. What I want is to ensure he never has the chance to set foot in Ta Corporation even for half a step. On the third day after Tattoo Trake was beaten, the production department of Ta Corporation submitted a report to the leadership. A large amount of incoming materials did not meet standards. The accuracy of the components completely failed to meet customer requirements and export standards. If a large amount of this raw material is not used, it will cause a loss of at least 8 figures for Ta Corporation. This time, Ta Corporation completely exploded. Mr. Ta hurriedly ran around the company to resolve this issue. Finally, it was discovered that the root cause was Tattoo Trake. He had changed suppliers himself just for a 10 million commission. And the timing of the commission coincided with when he was betting on horse racing with that little white flower. Simply because he couldn't accept losing 20 million in working capital that he didn't have to spare. He did this to make money in a short time without having to sell his property. To prevent everyone from knowing that Tattoo Trake was so poor that he had to sell his house. Tattoo Trake then accepted the commission from the supplier. After all, cash on hand cannot be wasted. Besides, the materials looked similar enough that a slightly lower accuracy seemed not to cause any consequences. But he miscalculated, just being slightly lower was enough to cost lives, and the first to pay the price would be him. Ta Corporation was not solely under the absolute control of the Ta family. The huge loss immediately made the board of directors vigilant. They quickly demanded the chairman, who was also Mr. Ta, to provide a clear explanation. If not, this loss would be enough to send Tattoo Trake to prison for decades and enough to pull Mr. Ta from the chairman's seat. After all, there were still many shareholders waiting for an answer. In that critical moment, Mr. Ta had no choice but to sever his ties, ruthlessly abandoning Tattoo Trake. After all, he was just one son, he still had another. Moreover, Ta Tam was gradually showing his decisiveness, capable of shouldering the overall situation alone, far superior to Tattoo Trake. Therefore, Tattoo Trake was left behind. Someone must take responsibility for what has happened. He brought this disaster upon himself, so he must bear the consequences. He fully deserves it. In less than half a month, the situation at the Ta family has completely changed. With Tattoo Trake falling from power, the board of directors conducted a thorough investigation, tracing from him to others, revealing many surprises. It turns out that the middle-level leaders under Tattoo Trake taking kickbacks had become a common practice, and it is unknown how much money they had secretly embezzled from Ta family. This time, all of them were forced to return the money they had swallowed, and then one by one, they were shaved bald and sent to re-education camps. The remaining subordinates of Tattoo Trake quickly turned against him, one after another trying to curry favor with Ta Tam. Ta Tam is not someone who only knows how to indulge in pleasure. In over half a year of working at the corporation, he has personally secured numerous projects sufficient to prove his capability and qualifications to become Ta family's heir. His appearance is outstanding, with a calm and reliable demeanor. As everyone gradually calmed down, they all chose to place their trust in the Ta family. During the process of handling Tattoo Trake's private assets, that girl had come to the Ta family to cause trouble. She claimed to carry the bloodline of the Ta family, being a noble direct descendant, demanding the Ta family take responsibility. Recalling the lesson from Hua Ka-lo earlier, and Ta immediately sneered, directly taking her to the hospital to deal with the illegitimate pregnancy. The art museum was also reclaimed by the Ta family, completely demolished, and then rebuilt into a shopping center. Ta Tam is not a fool. He understands that my help is not out of charity, nor is it because I want to play the good guy. So on his 22nd birthday, he knelt before me, presenting an exquisite ring. It was not an ordinary wedding ring but a symbol of the extensive cooperation between the Ta family and the Tam family. A tightly bound contract that is difficult to break for decades to come. This is a deal sealed by marriage, bringing both families nearly nine-figure profits along with countless relationships and resources that cannot be measured in money. As for Ta Tu Trake, after everything ended, he completely disappeared from the public eye. From now on, the Ta family only has one son left, Ta Kan Tam, with no other heirs. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. I truly appreciate your comments, suggestions, and feelings. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next stories.